The diary. Rain hammered the attic window as Anna knelt beside the steamer trunk, her fingers closing on something leather-bound and ancient. Inside the diary, she found the photograph first. Her mother's neck bruised the color of plums, eyes hollow with chemicals. And the receipts. High-dose prescriptions signed by Dr. Aris, paid in cash by her father. Chlorpromazine, the dosage increasing each month. Then Ben appeared in the cellar doorway, holding a glass of fizzing water and a small white pill. And he told her the truth. He had crushed them into their mother's tea. For years, together with their father, to keep her from crying. But that was still to come. 13 hours earlier, Friday afternoon had announced itself with bruised clouds and the smell of static electricity. Anna's black leather boots splashed into a puddle on the gravel driveway, water exploding against her leg in small, angry drops. The rain came down in sheets, drumming against her yellow raincoat with a sound like thousands of fingers on glass. She hunched forward, squinting at the house. The Miller house, her childhood. Now something else entirely. The brass handle of the front door was cold against her palm. Metal bite. She turned it. A click, the mechanism releasing with the sound of old machinery. She stepped inside. Dim hallway, air stagnant with beeswax and dust. The smell invaded her sinuses, coating her throat. Her father stood at the far end, silhouetted against the kitchen light, a dark shape, shoulders squared. Arthur Miller, 73 years old, still tall, still capable of filling a room with the weight of his refusal to speak. "You're late," he said. The words fell like stones into still water. "The roof is leaking in the attic." Anna hung her wet coat on a wooden peg. It slid off immediately, half falling. She caught it mid-drop, her reflexes sharp, jerking it back up. Water pooled on the floor. The coat stayed on the peg. In the hallway mirror, her reflection stared back at her fractured. A crack ran vertically through the glass, splitting her face in half. One eye on each side of the break. The image distorted, strange, wrong. She looked away. That night, she climbed the creaking wooden stairs to the attic, a heavy metallic flashlight gripped in her right hand. The beam cut through cobwebs like a blade, dust swirling in its path in slow, deliberate spirals. Each step groaned under her weight. The air was thick, cold, and smelled of abandonment. The trunk stopped her. Blue steamer, large, the kind families had used before air travel became common, covered in a thick layer of gray ash-like dust. She wiped a hand across the top. The dust came away on her palm, dark against her skin. She could see the clean blue underneath. Someone had tried to preserve this, to keep it hidden. She reached for the lid. A hand slammed down on the trunk beside hers. Not gentle. An open palm striking metal with the force of intention. Anna's breath caught. She spun. Ben emerged from the shadows like a photograph developing. Her brother, 36 years old. His face contorted, jaw clenched, eyes dark with something beyond anger. Something older. "Get away from that," he said. His voice was gravel. "It's not yours to touch." Anna pushed back, both hands on his chest. She shoved hard. He stumbled backward, his feet catching on an old wooden chair. It collapsed beneath him, and then a whole stack of chairs collapsed, an avalanche of splintered wood and broken furniture thundering to the floor. Ben lunged. His hands found her wrists. They wrestled for 3 seconds, bodies twisting, silhouettes dancing wildly on the attic walls in the light of the dropped flashlight. The beam rolled across the floor, making everything convulse with shadow and movement. Then he released her and climbed down the attic stairs without looking back. His footsteps faded. The house swallowed the sound. Anna sat on the floor, breathing hard. Her wrists were red where his fingers had dug in. She could still feel the pressure of his grip. She pulled a hair clip from her hair, black, practical, and inserted it into the trunk's lock. She twisted her wrist sharply. The lock was old, corroded, but it yielded. A loud clack signified the release. She lifted the lid. Inside, resting on top of a lace dress yellowed with age, was a small leather-bound book. The cover was embossed with initials in fading gold. E.M. Elena Miller. Anna opened the first page. The handwriting was frantic, slanted, the letters leaning like wind-blown trees. They look at me, but see a ghost. Arthur has built a prison out of silence. A small photograph fell out. Black and white, grainy. It showed a young woman, Elena, Anna's mother, unsmiling, with a large bruise visible under her collarbone. Purple-blue, the kind of bruise that takes time to develop, that requires repeated impact. Anna's thumb covered the bruise. She held the diary close to her body that night, not letting it out of her sight. She lay on her bed in the guest room, not her childhood room, something less intimate, and read by the light of a small desk lamp. Entry after entry, years compressed into pages. The handwriting changed over time, becoming less controlled, more fragmented. Words appeared and reappeared. Silence, prison, fading, disappearing, staying in bed. The pills, the pills. The photographs inside the diary became her history rewritten. Pictures of her mother at birthday dinners, always thin-lipped, always distant. Pictures of her childhood Christmases where Elena stood in the background like a ghost, like something already dead. Pictures that showed the slow extraction of a person from their own life. Saturday morning came cold and clear. The rain had stopped. Sunlight poured through the kitchen windows, making everything sharp and edged. Arthur was pouring coffee. The liquid splashed over the rim of a white ceramic mug, steaming on the linoleum table. His hands were shaking slightly, not much, but enough to notice. Enough to know something was wrong in his body, some small betrayal of age and stress. Anna slid the diary across the table. It skidded on the linoleum, hitting his mug with a dull thud. Coffee sloshed, some spilled onto the tablecloth. "Read the entry from August 14th, Dad," Anna said. Her voice was sharp, accusatory, carved from something brittle. "Tell me about the prison." Arthur's face turned a deep, mottled red. The kind of red that precedes violence. He lunged across the table, his chair flipping backward and slamming into the floor with a sound like a gunshot. He reached for her throat. His hand closed around her neck. His fingers dug in, pressing against her windpipe, and for a moment, Anna couldn't breathe. The room swam. Spots appeared in her vision. She grabbed a heavy glass sugar shaker from the table. She brought it down hard against his forearm. Once, the glass shattered. Sugar exploded everywhere. White granules flying like snow, covering everything. Arthur's grip loosened. He pulled his arm back, and Anna gasped for breath, her throat burning. Ben rushed in from the living room. He tackled Arthur away from Anna, both men tumbling into the refrigerator with a force that dented the metal door. The sound was enormous, a boom that seemed to shake the house. Magnets and papers fluttered to the floor. Arthur went down first, his head near the baseboard. Ben stood over him, breathing hard. "Enough!" Ben was screaming, his voice fractured. "That's enough, Dad." Anna stumbled backward. Her hand went to her throat. When she pulled it away, there were blood smears. Small crescents where Arthur's fingernails had dug in. The afternoon was quiet in a way that felt dangerous. Anna sat in the living room alone, the diary open on her lap. She peeled back a loose piece of leather inside the diary's back cover. something she hadn't noticed before. Small, yellowed slips of paper were tucked inside. Hidden. Preserved. Pharmacy receipts. She spread them on the coffee table, all dated over a span of 15 years, all for high doses of chlorpromazine, all signed by a Dr. Aris, but paid for in cash by her father. The amounts increased over time. 5 milligrams became 10, became 20. One receipt had a note scrawled on the back in handwriting that wasn't her mother's. Patient is becoming resistant. Up the dose. She must stay in bed. Anna looked up at a portrait of her mother on the mantel. The eyes in the painting seemed to track her, following her face. The portrait was from before the sedation, before the silence. Elena looked almost alive in the painting. Vital, conscious. The realization hit like a fist. Her mother hadn't withdrawn. She hadn't retreated into herself out of some emotional fragility or depression. She had been sedated, systematically, over years. Her compliance purchased with chemistry, her silence bought and paid for, a sound behind her. Arthur entered the room holding a heavy iron fire poker. He wasn't looking at her. He was looking at the receipts spread across the coffee table. The receipts. The evidence. The proof of what he had done. "I did it for her," Arthur said. His voice was monotone, the voice of someone stating a fact about the weather. For the peace of this house, Anna stood up. She grabbed the diary and the receipts. She ran. Saturday evening arrived with her bursting through the back door into the storm. The rain had returned, heavier now, windswept and vicious. The water hit her like lead pellets. The world liquefied. She sprinted across the muddy lawn, her feet sliding in the muck, her breath coming in sharp gasps. Arthur followed. She could hear him behind her. The fire poker swung in his hand. He moved with surprising speed, a dark shape in the deluge. Lightning flashed, a split second of illumination, where she could see his face twisted in rage and something else. Something broken. She dived into the wooden tool shed. She slammed the bolt shut. The wood was rotten, shaking with her impact. Rain poured through gaps in the planking. It was cold inside. Freezing. She was soaked through. The fire poker smashed through the door's plywood panel. The wood exploded inward. Shards flew past her face. One grazed her cheek, cutting skin. Blood trickled down. Anna grabbed a heavy garden spade from a hook on the wall, as Arthur's hand reached through the hole to unlock the bolt from the inside. She brought the spade down on his knuckles. The impact was a dull, meaty thud. Arthur screamed, a sound of pure animal pain. His hand withdrew. She heard him staggering backward, heard him cursing. She waited. Minutes passed. The rain continued its assault on the shed. She was shivering now, her body beginning to fail. The diary was tucked inside her shirt, pressed against her ribs, getting slowly soaked. After what felt like an hour, Anna cracked open the shed door. The yard was empty. Arthur was gone. She ran for the cellar. The exterior entrance was a metal door set into the foundation. She pulled it open and descended the concrete steps into darkness. Behind her, the storm raged on. Ahead, the dark swallowed her whole. Anna crouched behind the water heater in the pitch-black cellar. She was shivering, her teeth chattering so violently she thought her jaw might break. Her hands were stained with mud and her father's blood. Time had no meaning down here. Minutes stretched. The pipes dripped their constant rhythm. Then she heard footsteps on the wooden stairs. Slow, deliberate. Ben descended. He was carrying a tray. On it, a glass of water and a small white pill. He sat on a crate in front of her. He looked at her with an expression that might have been pity or might have been hunger. The distinction seemed irrelevant. He dropped the pill into the water. It began to fizz. A soft, effervescent sound that seemed obscenely gentle in this place of concrete and darkness. "I used to help him crush them into her tea," Ben said. His voice was casual, the tone of someone discussing the weather or a recipe. "It's the only way she'd stop crying, Anna." Anna's eyes widened. The full architecture of it crashed down on her at once. Her mother hadn't been withdrawn or fragile or depressed. She had been sedated. And her brother had helped, had been complicit, had done this to their mother day after day, year after year. She tried to stand. Her legs buckled. She fell to her knees on the concrete, and it hurt, pain shooting through her joints. Her hands gripped a cold copper pipe for support. Ben reached out and stroked her hair. His hand was heavy and possessive. "You're just like her," he whispered. "Too much feeling." He grabbed her chin, forcing her mouth open. He tilted the glass of drugged water toward her lips. The pill had dissolved completely now, leaving a faint chemical taste in the air. Anna bit down hard on his index finger. She clamped her teeth down as hard as she could. Ben screamed. She kicked him in the solar plexus, and he flew backward into a shelf of preserves. Glass jars exploded on impact. Red jam splattered everywhere, across the shelves, across his clothes, across the concrete floor. It looked like blood. Ben recovered quickly. His face was covered in red preserves. He lunged again, tackling Anna to the ground. They rolled over broken glass. The shards sliced into their clothes, into their skin. Pain bloomed sharp and immediate. They were a tangle of limbs and violence. Two people destroying each other in the dark. Anna grabbed a large shard of glass, not thinking, just moving. She held it to Ben's throat. Her hand was bleeding from the jagged edge, but she didn't let go. She pressed the point into his skin. A trickle of blood appeared. "Don't move," she said. At the top of the stairs, Arthur appeared. He looked down at his two children in the wreckage of preserves and broken glass and violence. He stood there for a long moment, taking in the tableau. Then he collapsed onto the stairs, his body folding in on itself. He sobbed, not quiet crying, hysterical, body-racking sobs that echoed through the cellar like the sounds of something dying. Anna dropped the glass shard. It pinged against the concrete. She crawled away from Ben, her back against the cold stone wall. She sat there, breathing, bleeding, not quite alive and not quite conscious. Ben lay on his back, staring at the ceiling pipes. He was covered in red preserves and his own blood. He didn't move. His breathing was shallow, irregular. The diary lay in a puddle of water from a leaking pipe. The ink was beginning to run, the secrets dissolving into tendrils of blue that spread through the water like something living. The dripping continued. Constant. Patient. Arthur's hand reached through the stair railing. He was holding something small and brass. He opened his fingers. The key fell. It rattled down the steps, bouncing, until it came to rest near Anna's foot. She reached for it. Her fingers were so stiff she could barely close them around it. This was the key to the final box. The last secret. The thing that would complete the picture or destroy it entirely. Sunday morning came with winter light through attic windows. Anna stood before a small, velvet-lined jewelry box on her mother's vanity. The key turned perfectly. The lock clicked. She lifted a false bottom from the box. Inside was a single, folded white envelope. It smelled faintly of lavender. Just that. The scent of her mother's presence, preserved in linen and time. She unfolded the letter. The handwriting was different. Clear, steady, and calm. Not the frantic script of the diary. the script of someone who had achieved a kind of clarity. It was dated just days before her mother's death. I have hidden the truth in the diary to survive, but this is the real me. I forgive them both, for they are sick with the same silence. You, my darling, you are the one who must not forget. You must leave this house. You must make your own silence or break it completely. But do not let theirs become yours. At the bottom of the envelope was a small dried flower, a forget-me-not, blue and fragile, somehow still vibrant after all these years. Sunday noon, the dining room. The family sat together around the table, no longer fighting, no longer lying, just sitting in the wreckage of everything they had tried to hide. Arthur sat at the head of the table. His knuckles were bandaged. He stared at a clean white plate, his eyes unfocused, his mouth slightly open. Ben sat across from Anna. He had a butterfly bandage on his cheek where the glass had caught him. He pushed a bowl of bread toward her. A gesture, not reconciliation, just an acknowledgement that they were still in the same room, still part of the same damaged thing. Anna placed the final letter in the center of the table. She didn't speak. She just let the paper rest there between the bread and the water glasses. Let them read it or not. Let them understand or not. Arthur reached out. His fingers trembled. He touched the edge of the letter. Finally, after everything, he looked at Anna. "I didn't think," he said. His voice was broken, a whisper barely louder than breath. "I didn't know she could forgive." Anna stood up and went to the window. She opened it. The rain had stopped hours ago. The scent of wet earth filled the room, bringing with it something like air, like possibility, like the idea that rooms could be ventilated, that stale air could be replaced. Sunday afternoon, the front yard, the gravel driveway. Anna tossed her bag into the passenger seat of her car. The diary was tucked securely inside the bag's outer pocket. She had packed nothing else. No clothes, no photographs, no pieces of this house. Just the evidence, just the truth. She looked up at the house. Arthur and Ben were standing on the porch, two small figures watching her leave. They didn't wave. They just stood there, watching the exit. She shifted the car into gear. Her hand was steady on the gear shift. She pulled away, the tires crunching on the drying gravel. Dust kicked up behind her in small clouds. On the dashboard was a small photo, taped there, faded. It showed her as a baby with her mother, both of them laughing, caught in a moment of genuine joy. In her mother's handwriting, scrawled across the back in blue ink, Tioma and Anna. She smiled. A small thing. Not healing, not forgiveness, not anything with a name. The car disappeared down the long, tree-lined road. The house receded. The trees closed in on either side. Behind her, the Miller house was left in the afternoon light, its windows reflecting nothing but sky.